We're good to go.
Lana, it's awesome to have you.
Lana Terene.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, thank you. Thanks
Middle
for
name?
having me.
Middle name?
Do we have to go there?
No, we don't have to.
Ken. Joanne.
No, no, not
Don't say
Joanne.
ooh. There
I
might be
reckon
people
it's-
with she's back.
I reckon it's
we keep
Joanne's
that.
like,
Joanne's
"Man,
like,
I don't want to listen to this anymore.
She was so happy talking to me the
Is there
other
a
day.
Joanne?
I hope so. We've got a few
gosh.
people there.
Maybe start sweating.
did you have a friend called Joanne?
Nah, it's just that was a really bad response to somebody's beautiful name.
Yeah, my middle name's George.
Is it actually?
Yeah, it's a strong name. I like it.
Who's that from?
It's a valid question.
King George III.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Prophetic.
So brought up in West Auckland, as we've heard.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
West side, Te Aratu,
Yeah, that's the one.
Te Atatu.
Yeah. Great pronunciation.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Oh, kia ora, kia ora.
Love it.
Okay. Yeah, brought up in a...
We're going somewhere with this. How was your
born and bred
upbringing?
there. Born and bred there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Siblings.
Yeah, so I've got an older brother, and nobody really knows about him. We don't need to go there. And then I've got an older sister, and we're pretty close.
Cool.
Yep.
Quite similar to you, eh? Looks
In
similar.
looks, yeah. We get asked often if
Yeah.
we're twins, but like when you put us together, and I guess because you know her, like you know your sibling's face, you're like, nah, man.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Right.
just the bun. Like she wears a bun,
Right.
I wear a bun.
Because I remember seeing a post of you in New Zealand with your sister. and I'm like, wow, they're like so 20.
So similar, yeah.
That's
yeah.
cool. Okay. Brought up with mum and dad.
So brought up with my mum and my stepdad,
Okay.
and so my parents divorced when I was 2.
Yep.
And I always say that's a great thing because they were a terrible match.
Right. But you were, how old were you though?
I was only 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't really affect me in the sense of I didn't know anything different.
Right.
So I think that's why I cheer it on too.
Yeah.
Plus seeing where they are, like my mum and my dad and their paths now,
Right.
such a good idea.
Do you still see your biological dad?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. We grew up going to visit maybe twice a year
Okay.
and that sort of thing. But
Lived out of Auckland.
yeah,
type
so
thing.
he's in Rotorua
Okay.
and that's where like his family are from.
Right.
And then I grew up in Auckland.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is Terene your surname?
Yes.
Is that your mum?
No, that's my father's surname. So very proud of my surname.
Your biological dad's
Yes.
surname?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Sorry to ask all these questions.
No, that's
Just-
great.
That's okay.
Getting
Yeah.
to know
Yeah.
you a bit more. But your stepdad from 2 or
From
whenever
4.
from
yeah,
4.
Yeah. So he came to live with us when I was about 4.
Awesome.
And yeah, he's just a solid dude.
Right.
Like, yes, doesn't know God yet, but he was always a good provider, safe man,
Awesome.
just consistent. Whereas my father, my actual dad, wasn't.
Right.
And so, yeah, I really honour my stepdad.
Yeah, that's
Great
really
guy.
cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's amazing. So how are you related to Darren?
So it's my mum's brother.
Oh, literal.
Yeah.
Man, he's
Did you know that?
I did know that. He's your uncle, but I thought
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was the oldest son of your mum's brother or sister. That's what I thought. But he's actually your mum's brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you know how you have uncles and aunties in the
Yes.
Māori family. And
Yeah, you're like, oh,
Irish.
it's my uncle, but really it's...
Yeah, he's,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So born and bred in West Auckland.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about school and growing up. And
Man, I had a great time at school. Hey,
Yeah.
like, to be honest, I didn't struggle. And it might sound a bit like, oh, yeah, I had a great life. But no, legit, like, when I look back, like, I wasn't bullied. I didn't struggle to make friends. I learnt pretty well. Yep, I passed NCA level 3. Yeah.
great
I'm
achievement.
educated.
I
But
know
yeah.
what that is.
I don't know what the
That's all
equivalent
good.
is, but yeah, so school was good. Like I had friends, I always had friends and that sort of thing. But it was more towards when I started to like explore,
Right.
which would have been around
The meaning of life.
14. Yeah.
Right.
The meaning of life / experimenting with things that obviously I look back now and I'm like, oh, could have saved a lot of years of healing and
Yeah.
going through like getting rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It's my testimony.
Yeah.
We're here now.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
So, as far as God awareness, very like nothing?
Pretty
Or-
much nothing,
Okay.
except for, so my Uncle Darren, who you just spoke
Yeah.
about, and Auntie Tracy, they were the only ones that I knew that were close that went to church, but that was
Okay.
more just like their thing. And
Yeah.
I never really questioned it, like, why do they go to this place on a Sunday? But I did go along sometimes.
Like from what age though?
As in,
When did you go along with them? How old were you?
probably like around, I think 8.
Really?
8, yeah. But when I say go along, I mean like once or twice a year. Only because they used to go and do like really cool stuff after church, whereas like my family would just be chilling at home, catching up on the TV programs.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
So it's a bit of something to do.
yeah, it was something to
Right.
do. But yeah, it's funny because like I remember sitting there through the worship and just looking around like, what are these people doing? Like, why are they waving their hands around? Why are they singing these songs? Who are they singing to? Like, I do remember questioning that sort
Right.
of thing, but it didn't go as far as like, oh, I should find out what they're doing and why they
it's
do
just
this.
in the moment,
Yeah, just
and
in the
then
moment.
the next moment you're there. It's
But
forgetting
how,
what.
Yeah.
but how cool, eh? Just a little journey of that, and then for them to be living here now, you're here, you're at the same place together.
Mate,
How crazy!
Do you
eh?
have like 3 hours? Like, it's amazing. It is so amazing. Like even before I knew God, He knew me, and like the
Yeah,
word
yeah.
talks about that. But
Yeah.
legit, like that's my testimony.
Yeah.
How cool!
Yeah,
So cool.
Yeah, even before I knew that God cared about me, He loved me. He knitted me in my mother's womb. He had a plan for me. I didn't know that, but He was still there.
Yeah.
Like even for like Christmas Eve services, Easter services, my family would go along to that
Right.
with Darren and Tracy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of just like I think it was the mentality, and I think it possibly still is, like, oh yeah, I went to this service, so I must be a good person.
Right.
Yes.
But there's no depth to it.
Right.
And there's no follow through.
Okay.
Yeah. But in terms of like believing in God, that didn't really happen until probably like 17,
Right.
where I started to question like, surely we didn't come from monkeys, because I believed that for my whole life.
Wow.
Like it just made sense to me. You know, you see that. Who's the guy?
Darwin.
Yeah. You see
Charles
that the image of the apes turning
Yeah.
into humans, and it just looks like it makes sense.
Yeah, you're
But I
taught
didn't
that.
question. You're taught
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And my family, they were big on just make the most of your life here. You die, you turn to nothing, and that was it. So when you get taught that and you have no other influence telling you otherwise, you believe that too.
So you came from nothing. You exist for nothing. And after death, there's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what hope is life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of it
What's
all?
the point?
Yeah.
That's a lot of mindset, and that's what education, secular education, teaches you.
Yeah.
There's nothing to live for, young people. Just get a job and exist and try and find happiness and a whole lot of things.
Things,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, did you participate in religious education at school?
No, they didn't have that. But
Wow.
I do remember intermediate, they had this guy come, and I'm pretty sure he was a Christian. So he'd kind of do like a fun kind of preaching thing. But I was just excited to go to that because it was something different.
Right.
But again, like, God even planted all these seeds, and I was still just like, la, 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 like carrying on with my life. Like, I didn't really pay attention to it.
Right.
I can't remember anything that the guy said, but I remember thinking like, oh yeah, cool.
Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's
But
cool.
nothing more than that.
Wow.
It's encouraging for people.
Yeah.
Plant seeds along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, okay, from like you're saying 14, you start being curious about things and stuff and whatever. Where did that take you?
So I started going along to parties.
Right.
Like, my weekends consisted of, what part? Like, where's the coolest party?
Right.
Let me go along to that.
Pretty
Who's going to be
standard.
there? Pretty standard
Yeah.
stuff.
Were
yeah.
you always, I mean, not always, you're an extrovert? Have you always been that
Yeah,
way?
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so when a party's happening, it's like, oh, Lana's arrived. Like everyone will know that?
Okay, not like that.
Not like
but
that?
It was like I want to be there because I want to be able to talk about it at school or wherever else. Like I want to be part of that conversation.
Okay. Would you ever host a party, start a party, have parties at your house?
No, and see, this is something that I didn't mention in my testimony. With my family, as in the family back in New Zealand that I grew up with, they always thought that I was good.
Right.
So they didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a history of a few little white lies.
Right.
Saying I was somewhere else when I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely no, I would never have a party myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you wanted to be where it was happening.
Yeah, man. Yep.
That's a good point. Hey, because most of us, or most people, wouldn't throw a party. They're the kids that are pretty out there, but we just want to do what's cool or be what's cool, so that on Monday or Tuesday it's like, did you do? Yeah, I was there. Or did you watch? Yeah, I watched it. I saw that.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So that was sort of yours, and I think also keeping the truth from your parents. It's also pretty standard. It's not just Christian kids doing that. That's a pretty standard thing. Most parents don't want their kids at parties. How old were you? 14, 15?
Yeah, like 14, 15, 16. That was like in the thick of it. Like thinking I'm real cool. I'll just say real cool. Yeah.
And so that went to how old?
So probably like the party stuff would have been until like maybe 16, 17. And then it ended up having like, you have like the younger ones come through and you're like, oh man, that's not cool anymore. So then I started going clubbing and doing all that. So it was like, what's next? Like always looking for that next thing. But when I say that, as in like being the cool guy and going to the cool places, there was still a limit, even though I didn't have like conviction from God about that's not a good thing. I was brought up with good like morals.
Yes.
So like drugs, that sort of stuff. I didn't go there. But yeah, just other things. Just other things.
That's one of the things out, drugs. So
for sure.
You didn't find yourself peer pressured to do that?
No, not at all. And so it's funny because like when I look back now, the boldness that God's put on my life, I did still have that there.
Right.
Like to say no to stuff like that, because I'm like, nah, mate. Like I've been into documentaries for a long time, and so I'd watch documentaries about how people would ruin their lives. So I'm like, why would I want to do that? So yeah.
Wow. You were smart.
I would stop. You
had some wisdom.
Still a little bit. Not much. When I look back, I'm like, oof. But yeah.
But still, that saved you from another level of the road that everyone goes down. Yeah, not everyone. People go down.
Yeah.
I understand. So you're just living life. This is what living life is, right?
Yeah.
And that practically is what living life is for most people.
For most people.
You head towards finishing school, start to have some fun, start to party, then you need a job to afford partying. You need to pay for the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And
so what did you want to do with life? What did you want to do with your life if you came from nothing, you're worth nothing, and you're not going to exist after? What did you want from
What was your goals?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a journalist.
Really?
I love traveling, and so I'm like, man, how cool would that be to get paid to go overseas and report about places?
Would be.
More just like the Travel Channel kind of journalist, not the news ones. I haven't really ever been into the news, still not. But yeah, that's what I wanted to be. And then after that, I wanted to get into graphic design and be a magazine editor. Wow. So this is all prior to coming to Australia. And then, so when I finally decided to come here, sorry if you're not there yet, but
we're everywhere.
Go wherever, So yeah, when I turned 17, and then around 18 is when I decided, like, okay, I'm going to come to Australia. I'm going to get all the money to be able to afford studying, to go back to New Zealand after 2 years being here. And then I was going to go study graphic design. And it's just so funny when I look back, because I'm like, man, like God will use anything. He really will. Like he was probably, just watching me like, go to Australia. Get all the money. And then, I'm still here like nearly 10 years later. So that was my plan. Yeah,
it's interesting. It says many of the plans of a man, but God orders the steps.
Yes. Yeah.
And like there's sort of nothing wrong with the plan. He's not condemning you for saying, your plan's dumb. He's like, okay, you make those plans, but you watch how I work.
Yeah.
You
100%.
watch how I'll get I'll chase you.
Yeah,
I'll follow you.
that's my story.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
What was your first job coming out? Was it in Australia, your first job?
No, so I was working as a receptionist for Honda Cars in Newmarket.
Oh,
So I was working there
nice.
part-time. Pretty mean first job. Yeah. And then I was working there part-time while I was in school. And then when I left school, I went full-time. And it was while I was there that I decided to come here.
Cool.
Because my auntie and uncle had already moved here a year prior, so my last year of high school. And then it just made sense to come here, stay with them for 2 years, and then go back to New Zealand. But anyway.
How close were you with them?
I grew up with them, so like I'd see them pretty much weekly, I think.
So them moving here, there was a bit of you that, this is a question, that you wanted to be close to them? You were like, oh,
Yeah, for sure. Well, it made sense because I was like, we've grown up together. I know you guys. You know us. Oh, sorry, you know me. Why wouldn't I?
That's
yeah,
cool.
and I've always been about like adventure and doing new things. So I remember, I'd sit there at the desk at
Honda.
Yeah. And just be like, man, like, is this going to be my life? I still have those moments today, but yeah, I remember thinking that and I was like, let's just go to Australia. But it's okay because it's not going to be permanent at the time, is what I thought.
Just going to get all the monies and bring it back from us.
Yeah,
Bring
come
it
back
from us
rich
study.
as. So funny.
What was it like when you got here? You're 18, eh? Off the plane.
18, yeah. To
First
be
time?
honest, I'd come to visit twice.
Okay.
And I think it was after the second trip that I was like, oh, yeah, because I've got a lot of extended family here. That's more my mum's generation, though, so I'm not really close with them. I had been to visit, but it was funny because like the day after Jenny and I arrived, we went to church, we went to chapel.
Yeah.
And I remember turning up and because I was just so sad to leave my family, like even though back then I thought it was only going to be 2 years, like when you grow up with these people, you see them all the time. That's all you know. It was really hard to transition.
You're 18 as well.
Yeah, and it's so funny when I look back. I just got a funny life, to be honest. But yeah, it's funny when I look back because I remember Rochelle coming up to both Jenny and I and just being like, oh, come and meet this lady. Come and, catch up with this person. And I'm like, lady, I don't want any friends at that time. I don't want any friends, no boyfriends, no connections. Because I'm like, why would I make friends when I'm moving back to New Zealand? Like, it didn't make sense to me. But yeah, very grateful for her persistence. And same with you, Marsh. Like, thanks for taking care of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did it happen from there? Like you were quite cold. Mm-hmm. What broke the ice?
I can't think of a moment. I
Yeah.
think it was the gradual, like, I would describe it as chipping away. Yeah. Like turning up to church on the Sundays because it took like 3 to 4 months to get a job. So that's a long time to not do anything. And so I ran out of excuses with not coming along to like youth or other gatherings. So I was like, I might as well go along. Actually, yes, I did have a moment. So it was back in the early NYC days at your guys' house back in Broadbeach, where one of the ladies told her testimony about how she'd been brought up this way, she'd gone through all these things, and then God changed her life. And I remember sitting there being like, man, maybe this God that everybody's talking about is real. And so that's where my journey really started with like learning about God, like doing things that would honor God and not my flesh or the world, So yeah, that was the moment.
It sparked a bit of curiosity. Was it the curiosity that sort of made you think like, oh, there's more to life than...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm like, here's this lady standing here telling me that this God, this thing, actually changed her life. Why would he, if he's real, maybe he can do the same for me. That's what I thought at that time. Right. So I would have been about 18 at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember, because you've got your belief that you've been taught from school, do you remember when that thought was challenged and what that was like?
As in while I've been here or just in general?
Just in general, because...
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, it was internship last year that really made me think, like, there is no way that anyone can convince me that God's not real. So that's a good, 9 years of that chipping away and flushing out lies with and then replacing it with God's truth.
Wow.
So yeah, probably last year is when like 100% my faith has been solidified.
And was there still, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's
No.
powerful. I think every year I press in more.
Yeah.
Think there's more things that are solidified. So was there still a part of you that was like, this some of this is true, but also what I've been taught growing up about evolution and stuff, there's a part of that that's, you know, the Christians might be missing, that we might be missing here as well.
I think, just to clarify, wait, so you're asking, was there still a little bit of my background?
Yeah,
The way that I was taught?
Yeah,
somewhat in
the
there?
whole ape to man evolution process.
Yeah, I think maybe for that would have been like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Because like when you consistently turn up to this place and you're surrounded by these people, this great environment that teaches you about God's truth, there's no way that you can't not believe it.
Yeah.
Like, because being separated from my family, as much as I love them, it was a great move because I didn't have them counteracting God's truth. Like for me, like I hang around chapel people, like I'm involved. My life is...
So how do you know you're not just being brainwashed into a
good
cult?
question.
That's a great question, and I've asked myself that a lot. It's because there's so many new people that come to chapel and they talk about it being home and different to where they've come from, and the love that we have for each other stands out for them. So yeah, that's my indicator, is the new people coming in to convince me this isn't a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So you're on this journey.
Yeah.
Someone shares something,
Yeah.
and for the first time you're like, if God can do that for her, maybe I should give it a go. Was it sort of the attitude?
Yeah,
or?
that's exactly what I thought.
Okay.
And so that's where I then started saying yes to coming along to gatherings, or
Right.
like women's nights, youth, and then started serving, and it was like Kids Ignite,
yeah.
youth at the same time. So I really you could probably describe it as like diving in,
Nice.
like fully in. But that was that turning point of
Right.
like, maybe everything I was taught was a lie. Maybe this really is the truth. Yeah, I was kind of like at that point, what do I have to lose? Like what you were saying before, like you're born from nothing, you're here for no reason, and you die and turn to nothing, then what do I really have to lose by trying this? So, yeah.
Pretty awesome.
And it wasn't like forced, right? So there's no like, how important has that been for you? Because I imagine
Huge.
if your uncle and auntie were like, you must, or this is happening, or you turn up and it's like, unless you follow Jesus, you've got no hope,
Yeah.
for anything. How important is that, do you think, for you?
I think it was huge for me because I've never been about people telling me what to do. I'm still that way. I'll blame that on my upbringing. But yeah, I think that was huge for me because it's like I'm making that decision, so God's real for me. And so that's why whenever I share about Jesus with people, like people at work or people on the plane that I sit next to, I never speak about it in a way of like you have to or you should or you must, because I know what that felt like being... Where am I going? Wait. I know what that felt like. No, I know what that would have felt like if somebody was doing that to me.
Right.
I totally would have turned the other way, like knowing my mindset back then and stuff.
Don't you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Tirini.
So what's...
That's right.
I love, I've witnessed and I see the same thing, and it's super encouraging for me. It's the same story over and over again. New people coming in, they all say along the same lines of what you said. It's home, something's happening here, I can feel the spirit. It's for the same thing for 10 years. But for you, what are some significant things, like internship last year, that for you personally, you were like, man, that cannot be a coincidence that God has worked through me or done this or that? What's some of those things
Like
that's happened
stepping
for you?
stones, maybe?
Yeah. little
wow
wow
that's a big
moments.
question. That's huge.
Oh, and if you don't have something now, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I just
I think so. Yeah, there was that moment where at youth, where the lady was telling her testimony. There was it's like where God's spoken through people to me through like prophecy, or even I would have a tough as week, and then you'd sit there in service, and whoever was preaching said exactly what you needed to hear. And then you're just like, whoa, like you can't tell me that God's not real.
Yeah.
If that happens consistently as well, though. And these are also people who I wouldn't be sharing about what I was struggling with. So how would they know? Also, it was really funny. I had this moment where I was like, okay, God, if you're real, I'm going to open this Bible and you're going to speak to me. Like I had that attitude, which is, oh man, anyway. So I opened it and it turned to Matthew 7, do not judge others. And I was like, oh, that hurt, but it was the truth. And I'll never forget that. Like that was definitely a stepping stone where God comes through, man. Like when you ask, you will receive, whether you're ready for it or not.
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And then, yes, of course, last year with the internship, like I battled with that for so long. Like I dodged it for like a good 7 years because I'm like, nah, I don't need that. Or like, God, I know you created the universe. I know you take care of everything. But how could you possibly pay my bills if I don't work full time? That was my mindset for so many years. And then last year, the opportunity came and I didn't have work at the time. So I'm like, okay, God, you've shown up in so many different ways. So I believe you can give me a job that will be Tuesday to Friday. I can still get my weekends off and have that Monday free for internship. And he delivered.
There you go.
Yeah, so I've got a great job now. It just worked so well. But yeah, that internship, absolutely life-changing. The stuff that you learn, particularly on the Mondays, the input, and then the dying to flesh on the Sundays with the serving.
It's very good. Very good.
Has there been, what was your water baptism like? Do you want to sort of explain that? Like, was it simply an act of obedience, or was it more depth than that? Was there a moment there where it was powerful? You know, was that at our house?
No, this was at, Hotter? Back at that lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah. So at that time I said yes to doing the Purple Book.
Right.
And so when it got to the chapters about water baptism, baptism in the Holy Spirit, it just made sense to me at that time. Like, here's Jesus telling us to do that. Why would I not? But I will say, it comes to mind now, I will say that I did dodge that for a while too. Because I'm like, I had one foot still in the world doing things that didn't honour God. And then here I am trying to be this like good Christian. So how could I possibly do something that's like the ultimate act of obedience
That's fair.
at that time?
Yep.
Like coming from the world. So
Fair.
yeah, I
How old
fought
were
it
you
for
then?
ages. Probably 18 or 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
A
was
lot
quite
happened when I was 18. A big
Yeah.
year.
That's massive. That's that's good to hear, and I think it's good for people to hear. Like there does in the previous testifies, there does come a point where you can't live a foot in both camp,
Yeah.
and you're feeling like
The tension.
the tension of oh man, I've got to make this real. I want to get water baptized. I know God's calling me to do that. He's inviting me in, but I still foot in one camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. At what point did you say the world, I'm done? Or was it a slow death of the world? Like,
Yeah, definitely a slow death.
right.
Like, I'm not that switched on to just be like, okay, I'm going to go cold turkey
Right.
on everything that I've done for the last, 20-something years.
Right.
So, yeah, it was definitely a slow process. But I do remember one time I went out clubbing with the girls that I was working with back when I worked in retail. So that was I worked in retail when I first got here. But even that, let me just say, like, God knows the desires of your heart,
He
right?
does.
Like, I always wanted to work in retail. I turn up here, and then I got to work in retail. So I was there for like 4 years. Anyway, they got to see me transform, because here I am, like, partying and clubbing with them. Next minute, I'm talking about Jesus and how they need to be saved. Anyway, so yeah, I remember this one time we went to celebrate. I think one of them was leaving. And so we went to this club. It was like somewhere in Broadbeach. And I remember standing there, and I looked around. I was fully sober. Looked around, and I was like, oh, like I could just see the emptiness in these people. Like, yeah, they might have looked happy, but it was almost like God showed me their souls, that they're just empty and they're trying to fill that void that only God can fill. And so I've never been since then, because I was just like, ew, like, why would I want to do that? So yeah, it was definitely a slow process, like probably 5 to 6 years of like getting rid of the way that I've been brought up and what I've been taught was good.
But you love dancing. You love having fun.
And isn't that's a testimony on its own though? Because how could you see that for what it is without a moment where God allows you? Because you are outgoing. You love to have fun. You don't need drugs and alcohol to have
100%.
fun and dance.
Yeah.
So you could have stayed in that zone and been okay, but you were like, that's a God moment right there. Like, Lana, look for a moment, let me see. To me, that's a powerful little intersection with God. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And
But
from
you're
that
still,
day,
you're still fun, life of the party, love to dance, love to
100%.
don't care what people think.
Yeah.
I love that about Lana.
Get the karaoke out.
Thank you.
Let's go.
How do you reconcile that? Like, because some people really struggle with it. Well, how can you dance to the music? You don't even care about what the music. You just love movement and love the freedom. I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not me. I look. We were at a wedding, and just people cutting sick, just
Bro,
chapel family cutting sick.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, that was so much
it.
fun. I'm like, man, I wish.
Oh,
I do wish I could do that. It's just not me, bruh.
It's so cool, though. Hey, it was so cool.
It was so fun.
The people who can actually move and shake.
But if you were there, we would have been
neck
like,
level.
check Lana out.
Neck level.
Doing the worm.
Yeah, I love that, and that I love the idea of freedom, that you don't need anything to make fun.
Yeah, to have fun.
You know, to let go of your self-consciousness or whatever. I need a bottle of courage, liquid courage. I don't need that. I don't need a tablet. I don't need anything. I can just be free.
Yeah. Was there a point for you where you had to make a call on that, where you were like, because if you're doing that all the time and that's fun and that's what it is, what everyone does. We were saying at the start, the things you're doing, that's just normal. That's what young people do.
Yeah.
So was there a point where you were like, this is normal. This lifestyle's normal. It's actually fun as well. Or was it hard?
This as in...
Like the Christian life, we go to church, we have fun at youth group, we have fun at a young adults or a women's night, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to that slow process.
Right.
Like, I'd have this amazing time with God, and then an opportunity would come up to go out, get wasted, all that stuff. And so, I'm talking years ago, I would say yes, and then I would turn up to church on the Sunday and be like, what did you do? Like, that same cycle. And then I think I just got really tired of it, like beating myself up about doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And so that's why I find it amazing, like, youth on the Saturday nights. Like, man, these kids could be anywhere else, even the leaders as well. They could be anywhere else doing anything else, but they're not. And so, I think like environment and influences is so important, because the people I was hanging around here at Chapel, they weren't doing that stuff and they didn't want to do that stuff. So, it just slowly got kind of squeezed out like a toothpaste, I guess.
Nice. Good
like
analogy.
That yucky stuff.
Last night we had a Mighty Young Men meeting.
Nice.
And Dan and I, my young men.
Sick invite.
20 to 29. Anyway, Dan and I were sitting there and realised, let's just bail out of here, because these are young men, and they had Brody and Vakey sharing.
Oh, cool.
Sick.
And Brody just said this thing. So there was like 20 in the room, all sitting around a circle. He said, the world do not do this. The world only does this when they're addiction. They're an addiction.
Oh, wow.
When they're alcoholics or drug addicts or sex addicts. That's the only time you'll get the world sitting in a circle asking for help. So he said, you guys being in this circle is powerful because you're stopping that happening
Yeah.
by just being together and building friendship and relationship and talking real. And it was just a real like moment of actually the church environment is probably seen as a bit like a AA circle, but before we need it. It's preventing us from...
prevention.
It's more like prevention, right?
Yeah.
Because we're being honest and open about where we're really at.
Yeah.
Man.
Special.
I know. It was really amazing. So...
What a good word.
Because some people might think, oh, the church is a crutch for you. It's a
Stops you from having
wheelchair,
fun. It's
can't have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
You're religious now. All the rules you have to adhere to. You've been brainwashed.
Yeah.
What sort of your reaction or response to that sort of
Man,
stuff?
that is huge. And that's why whenever I share about Jesus, like I'm very upfront about how I live my life and what I believe in and stuff, particularly for jobs, because I'm like, man, if I'm going to spend all day with you guys, like I just want you to know. Anyway, with that, I always talk about relationship. I always share my testimony, like briefly, because I'm like, man, I've lived this, and you can too.
Damn.
Yeah, and like with my family, that's been a challenge, and it still is to this day because they haven't yet come to Jesus. I know the day's coming, but not yet. And so the lifestyles are very different. So when I go there, it's hard because like all the things that I grew up with, even just the mentalities and the ways that they respond to situations, so different to now. Like we respond with love, we respond with peace and patience. They don't. And so that's hard to deal with because it's like I'm now the one who, she goes to church and stuff, but it's cool.
But then there's you think you know better than us. You think you're above us and better.
I've definitely had those conversations and it's awkward, but at the same time I'm like, nah, like God's done so much in my life that there's no way I could bow to anything else. So even those tough conversations, like I'm always sensitive to like, should I just shut my mouth? Should I say something? Right. And so a lot of the times I feel like when I've had those conversations, particularly with my sister, because she's quite headstrong too, I've had to shut my mouth. Yeah. I know, it's a surprise, right? But I've had to keep my mouth shut. And I think that's wisdom because then you just end up like adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
I'm like, here I am trying to say I'm this loving Christian, yet I'm being just as you. So, anyway.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And your fruit over time.
Yeah.
Like the long-term fruit, even another 5 years, 6 years, the undeniable, like overwhelming majority of you and what you're about becomes the evidence for other people because they're like, man, no, everything.
She's stuck with this.
She's and look at her life.
Yeah.
Look at how happy she is, how she overcomes things. Look at the friendships, the circles. It's the long game. The long game.
And I think that's where my family are at now. Like they accept this is who I am. And even conversations that we have or responses that I have to situations, they don't come at me like they used to because they're like, oh no, like I see she's not crazy.
Yeah. She's not brainwashed.
The fruit, she's not brainwashed. Yeah, it's just the lifestyle that I choose to live and they respect that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're bold. I think you're courageous.
Yeah, agreed.
You're a great example for people to witness the journey of God. Like, I heard this the other day. People get put off church because it's full of hypocrites. Mm-hmm. There's so many hypocrites.
So true.
But then I heard this person say, yeah, but the gym is full of fat people and you don't call them hypocrites.
That's good.
How good is that?
That's so good.
You don't judge people for being on the journey. Mm-hmm. But they're on the journey of health and getting slim and fit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's hard to reconcile with some, but it's good.
But the church is the same. We are.
Yeah, it's the
we are in a sense fat people at a gym. We're on this journey
Totally.
trying to work out our faith, and it's okay that we say one thing, yeah, I'm going to get slim one day, and yet we're eating at KFC,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I think it's
a journey. It's a long journey.
I was just really encouraged by that
Yeah,
comment. I'm
yeah.
like,
Good.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, oh, the church is this and the church is double standards and the
Yeah.
church. Yeah, people do. That's life. But
Yeah.
they're on the journey, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to say with like non-believers and stuff, even my family, colleagues, all that, those sort of people, it's like a hospital. Like I don't go to church because I'm perfect. Like I'm far from it. I need it to be able to, make it through another day. Like
right.
trying to change that perception, it can be challenging sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I think also as well, the issue with that is, what are the people like when they find something new? They're so passionate about it. They're so vocal about it. And so that's what the world sees.
Yeah.
The passionate, vocal dude on the corner that's a hypocrite. And you're like, he's still at the gym. And I think I was just thinking as you were sharing before, the really beautiful thing about you, Lana, is you saying about the toothpaste being squeezed out. The
That's
crap.
good too.
But to see your cup or whatever other analogy being filled, the maturity in you and just your, I guess you say, I don't like the word, but for lack of a better word, like your influence, your consistency, and the strength you bring in the community is like growing and growing.
It's awesome.
And it is awesome. Like imagine young chicks looking up to you.
Oh, it's so
Came
good.
all the way to Australia just with your friend, and look at where you are now. Look at what you're doing.
Only God could do that though, hey.
It's hard
Like,
out.
Sure.
Especially for someone like me who I've always planned ahead and I've always tried my best to stick to that plan. Like that's, God did it. God did it.
He's
and I
pretty
said yes.
persistent, eh?
Very.
He's pretty patient.
That he is.
Yeah.
Very.
That
And he
is.
wants you. Like he desires the best for you. But it's up to us to trust that he will do the best when we think we can do better. But he's never proven himself wrong.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, and I often think about that because, you hear of people coming to Christ, they're still struggling with things in their life. And even when they're drunk at a bus stop, they're trying to lead someone to the Lord. Hey, you hear that, that inside them there's this desire to serve God. And yet they're at the gym and they're still working it out. And that's like, we've got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
We've got to be okay with that because who are we to ever say we arrive, we get there, we're perfect.
Yeah.
We're God's gift to humanity. No, there's only one perfect gift to humanity, right?
Come on.
Come on.
Preach. Let's go. Let's switch this around for a minute.
That's tomorrow.
Nah, that's so good.
Yeah, so
really good.
thankful for you and your input into my family and my children.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
I remember when you stayed at our house, babysitting, and our girls love you,
Thank you.
and appreciate all the times,
Mean
when
memories.
when you hear the car coming up, quick girls, get into bed, and we'd come in and Lana's like, oh yeah, they've been in bed for ages.
Yes.
and
Oh,
everything.
yes. We read the
Angels.
story, yes.
No, just that. No, they didn't have dessert. Whatever. But you've just been a great, great influence, great friend,
you.
great mentor, consistent, encouraging, fun. That's what people always say. Oh, is Lana going to be there? Because she'll bring the life of the party. Hey,
So kind. Thank
guess
you.
who's going to be dancing tonight?
Yeah.
I've got my few who I can always count on them.
Yeah.
Hey, like everybody, we're still dancing and everybody's picking up around
Yeah,
us.
Miller will be there.
Yeah, come on. Yep.
Oh, she went
Got
to
our
a
crew.
program yesterday at Rabina Uniting, and they had a DJ there, and Rochelle turned up, and Miller was front center.
Oh,
Yeah, come on.
just
no
like,
doubt about that.
It's so cool.
Oh, I love it.
Good.
But
Well,
thank you.
thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Any last word of encouragement to people?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just 8 minutes. Just
Yeah.
I think my encouragement would be to just keep taking it one step at a time. Like if you
Gold.
are still struggling with something, because we all are, even if you see something on a Sunday and you think you know, oh yeah, they've got it all together. I'm sure there's still something that they might be struggling with.
100%.
Because none of us are perfect, right? And so, yeah, just one step at a time. And as I feel like there was a bit of a theme of like
I think
the
so.
journey.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, squeeze it out. Like let God squeeze out the yuckiness,
Great.
squeeze out the challenges and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just one step at
That's
a time
good.
is probably one step at a time with God.
Love
That's
that.
good.
Well done.
Well,
thanks,
thanks,
Lana.
Lana.
Oh, thanks,
Jinx.
That's not going to play.
That was Lana joining us for the Testify podcast. Thanks, Lana. Give her a hand, everyone, and we hope to see you next week.
Oh my God.